Dear students, welcome to RATS, Racing Against Time for Students in Pathology. I start the class with a case history. A 45-year-old obese male with irregular treatment on hypertension developed a stabbing chest pain, which was radiating to his left shoulder. He was immediately rushed to the hospital but collapsed en route. I hope you are able to guess the diagnosis. The questions will be, what is your diagnosis? What are the autopsy changes that you expect? And what are the factors that affect the development of this disease? The topic is infarction and the clinical diagnosis is myocardial infarction. The importance of this topic is given in the enclosure on the screen. Definition. Definitions are definitions. An infarct is defined as a localized necrosis caused by the sudden, complete, and irreversible occlusion to the vascular flow. I repeat, sudden, complete, and irreversible occlusion. For example, if somebody compresses an artery and releases it immediately, there is no infarct. And similarly, when there is going to be a gradual occlusion, there won't be an infarction. So it has to be sudden, complete, and irreversible. And blood flow means it can be a vein or an artery. Either of them can lead to an infarction. We'll be seeing how. Types of infarct. This is one method of classifying red infarct and white infarct, or hemorrhagic and pale infarct. This is one way. There is also another way, and this is an autopsy specimen of the heart. And in this, we are seeing large cauliflower-like friable vegetations in the cardiac valve, infective endocarditis. This will be full of organisms, and when there is an embolus, it will lead to occlusion and then a septic infarct. So this is called a septic infarct because there is sepsis. The opposite of it is bland. There won't be any organism. So these are the methods of classifying: red and white, septic and bland. Now, what are the factors that affect the development of an infarct? All patients do not develop an infarction in the same cause. It depends on the oxygen carrying capacity of blood. For example, if the etiology is going to be identical, a patient who is going to be severely anemic will develop an infarct much more than a well-built individual. Pattern of vasculature. This I shall be showing in the subsequent slides. So also the rate of occlusion. When the rate of occlusion is rapid, definitely there will be an infarction. When it is gradual, there can be some way out of it. Nature of the tissue. You would have read in your first chapter that there are some tissues which are extremely vulnerable to lack of oxygen, such as brain, heart, whereas the muscle, etc., are more resistant. Comorbidities. If the patient was to have hypertension, diabetes, etc., then there is a greater vulnerability to infarction. Age. Similarly, an old age person for the same etiology will succumb more easily. So these are important. Again, I repeat, the oxygen carrying capacity of blood, anemic patients more rapidly prone for infarction. Pattern of vasculature, this will be explained. Rate of occlusion, rapid occlusion, greater the chance of infarct. Nature of tissue, such as the brain or the heart, can be prone for infarction. Comorbidities, such as hypertension, diabetes, etc., can predispose. Age, old age again paves way for an infarct. The pattern of vasculature, this is what we saw in the last slide. Before I go into the structure as such, we people should remember that there is something called a dual circulation. A systemic circulation and a pulmonary circulation, it can be there in the lung. Similarly, there can be a systemic circulation and a portal circulation in the liver. So there is a dual circulation. Dual blood supply. There are some parts of the body, such as the forearm, which have got a double arterial supply. Sometimes there can be a single artery, but there will be rich interarterial anastomosis. The intestine, the mesentery, is a typical example of this. And last, we have got a single artery. We call it an end artery. And the kidney is a classical example for it. So the pattern of vasculature we people should be remembering. Dual circulation, double blood supply, single arterial supply with rich anastomosis, single arterial supply, end artery, no anastomosis. These are the patterns. So this is an example of a rich arterial anastomosis. I am finding a large branch over here and then another branch. I am not going into the details of it. But then when I go along the borders of the intestine, I find that the multiple branches, whatever be the source, are being connected to each other. So when there is going to be a block in any one particular region, still there will not be an infarction in this because there is a way out by means of the branches. So there is a rich interarterial anastomosis. But then there can be some areas. Look at this particular picture. There is an arterial supply which goes thus far. And there is another one which goes to this region. Whereas this particular region, called as Griffith's point, does not have any supply and is more prone for an infarction. And these are all the occlusions which are being shown. Rich interarterial anastomosis, remember the mesenteric blood vessels, the superior, the inferior mesenteric arteries. Rate of occlusion, this again is important. This is a normal blood vessel, maybe the aorta and its branches also. Just a schematic picture. And this patient is having an atheromatous plaque. A plaque is something that is gradually developing over months or years. And so what happens is, as the occlusion becomes more and more, the body knows that it is not adequate, and so there are branches which get developed. And finally, these branches, they circumvent the obstruction and the blood supply is more or less retained. This is called a collateral circulation. So even in the event of a complete occlusion, no infarction occurs. Rate of occlusion. On the contrary, if there is going to be an embolus which is going and obstructing a blood vessel, it will be sudden and infarction is certain. Rate of occlusion is important. Morphology of an infarct. There are basically two types of infarct, as I told you, the white infarct or the pale infarct. This usually occurs in any arterial occlusion. I'll be showing you the differences between the red infarct and the white infarct. But let us see the morphology in this. This is a specimen of the kidney in which there has been an infarction. Very clearly it demarcates itself. I find that there is a pale area which is more or less triangular or wedge shaped. It is pale. Look at this one. Obviously, this region is darker when compared to this. And there will be a congestion along the border because whenever there is an infarction, there is a reaction, more capillaries, maybe some inflammation also in the border that leads to congestion. Also, if you observe carefully, the subcapsular region is not infarcted. That is because there are capsular blood vessels from which the oxygen can permeate into the region. Therefore, the subcapsular region is usually spared. So remember this wedge-shaped infarct, which is pale in color, very well demarcated, congestion of the margins, and subcapsular region is spared. And there is another one called the geographic infarct. We shall see what it is. So these are the differences between the red infarct and the white infarct. This is a specimen of the lung and see the difference classically. You find that this is more irregular, even though it is well demarcated. it is darker in color. That is why we call it a red infarct or a hemorrhagic infarct. So there is another infarct over here. Whereas this one is, it is well demarcated. This is also probably an infarct and they are of different ages. Very well demarcated and pale. But here it is dark, irregular. Also, you find that sometimes the tissue will be bulging above the surrounding parenchyma. This is a geographic infarct I had been mentioning. So I find that this is an area of infarct, another area of infarct, and this also is an area of infarct. And they all join together. This is almost a map-like area that I am seeing, a map-like area. So these are multiple areas of pale infarct. They are all coalesce together. Coalesce means join together to form larger irregular areas and hence the term geographic infarct. Why do we get geographic infarcts? It can be because of recurrent occlusion. And recurrent occlusion can be because of sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is one condition where the RBCs will get converted to sickle shape and block the smaller blood vessels and capillaries. So patient develops a repeated infarct. Emboli. Emboli, sometimes they can be multiple. So repeatedly they will come and block the region and it is called as showers of emboli. In either of these conditions, you can get multiple infarcts leading to a geographic outline, map-like outline, and hence this term. And look at this particular infarct, you find that it is somewhat wedge shape. And why do you get this wedge shape? This is the pattern of a river. Delta is supposed to be a river bed where it has got distributaries. So you find that the water is getting distributed before it empties into the sea. And there are branches and branches. So this particular shape, particular area, if you have to draw an outline, you find it will be somewhat wedge shaped. That is exactly what is happening over here. So a river, look at the branches, sometimes they can be distributaries rather. And they can be joining together also before they join the sea. And this entire area of delta is triangular. And so also an infarct is got a triangular or a wedge shaped outline. You people should be able to explain why the infarct is wedge shaped. End artery is one example and the kidney is a classical example. So this is a renal artery. Renal artery may be having some branches within it. But what will happen is when the renal artery is obstructed, then definitely there is a kidney necrosis. Sometimes there can be some, we can't call them branches, we call them as arcuate arteries. They can be supplying the particular region. And when any of these is obstructed, it can lead to a wedge-shaped infarct. We had explained this earlier. And the type of necrosis, we have seen this in the first chapter, is a coagulative necrosis. So these are all tubules. This entire thing is a area of necrosis. And here I find that there is a line of demarcation which I have drawn. This is a viable area, this is a necrotic area. And so here there is the outline of the tubules is maintained. I used to describe it as a city of the dead or a tombstone appearance. Tombstone appearance, coagulative necrosis, there can be congestion in the borders and the infarct is wedge-shaped. The myocardial infarction is another classical example of a pale infarct or a white infarct. Look at this one. Even before I put the notes, I find that this particular area is much thicker than this. This is the left ventricle. It has undergone what is called as a hypertrophy also. And there is an infarction over here. It is pale in outline and it is almost involving the entire thickness of the ventricle over here. So it is called a transmural infarct. What they do is sometimes when the patient dies suddenly because of a heart attack, they are not able to identify. So they apply a substance called as TTC, triphenyl tetrasodium chloride. When they apply it, you find that the viable area takes up a red color, whereas the infarcted area remains pale. So this happens, this is useful when you want to identify a very early infarct. Changes will not be there. This can be identified by this method. So the infarct is transmural involving the entire thickness. It is pale. Application of TTC. There is a hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is increased in the thickness. You can go to game and see that also. And this obviously is the brain, and then there is an area of infarct which I am seeing as hemorrhagic, and there are areas of cystic degeneration. It is more common in what we call the watershed areas. What is a watershed area? We shall be seeing. So the type of necrosis here is a liquefactive necrosis. Usually we get a coagulative necrosis. It is liquefactive because of powerful enzymes being released, and it undergoes a cystic degeneration. Though infarction is a little dangerous, this is a blessing in disguise because there is no fibrosis from the surrounding tissue. When there is no fibrosis, the surrounding parenchyma is not being pulled, and therefore damage is restricted to this particular region, and these areas are unaffected. Imagine what will happen if there is a fibrosis. All the areas will be showing some kind of effect in the body. So this is one. This is what I explained as a watershed area. This is a cerebral artery over here. There is an anterior cerebral, middle cerebral artery. And as there are branches and branches, at a particular point you find that this area will not get the blood supply from either this artery or this artery. This is called the watershed area. Similarly, you find that there is a posterior cerebral artery and a middle cerebral artery, and there will be a junction between the two where there will be no blood supply. These are called as watershed areas. See this one, it matches exactly this. So it is derived from the scientific photo library, and there is an area of infarction. This you people should by heart. It is a repeatedly asked question, and any of this can be asked as a question also. What is the cause? It can be a venous occlusion in a red infarct, arterial occlusion in a white infarct. Site, usually spongy organs like the lung. Organs with a double blood supply, again the lung. Venous occlusion, intestine. These are classical examples. Whereas the white infarct occurs in solid parenchymal organs such as the heart, kidney, etc. It is more due to arterial occlusion. The causes can be torsion and strangulation. Here there is a venous occlusion. The veins are more easily occluded in these conditions than the arteries. Here it can be because of emboli. Reperfusion. Whenever the blood again flows into the region, it appears darker in a red infarct, whereas it is absent in a white infarct. Morphology is, as I told you earlier, the red infarct is irregular, it is poorly demarcated, it bulges above the surrounding tissue. Whereas here it is triangular or wedge shaped, well demarcated, and depressed below the surrounding surface because of fibrosis. Microscopically, you will be seeing coagulative necrosis in both the conditions, but in the brain, it is liquefactive necrosis. The examples of the organs are intestine, lung, and brain, whereas here it will be solid parenchymal organs, which we had mentioned. In both of these, you'll have to do a surgical resection, otherwise, it will spread into a gangrene. So this is a volvulus of the intestine. We are going on to the red infarct. So intestine has twisted upon itself. The vein has got obstructed. It is not able to drain, as a result of which there is stagnation and deoxygenation. So this is the area that the surgeon has cut. This is the area. It is called as a resected margin. It is pink and viable. It is live. Whereas this area is dark and black. It is a gangrenous area or a necrotic area. This is an example of volvulus of the intestine. We have already seen it. You can go back to game and see. This is another example, torsion of the ovary. So this is the ovary. It has got a few ligaments in it and it has got a blood supply. There is something called as twisting of the ovary on its own ligament and blood vessel, and that is called as torsion. When there is such a torsion, you find that the blood supply will be compromised. Veins will not be able to drain the blood and this area becomes deoxygenated. It is a surgical emergency. A red infarct develops in this condition. So coming to the summary of infarct, you will have to define, you will have to mention the types, what are the patterns of blood flow or supply, what is the difference between a red infarct and a white infarct with adequate examples, factors affecting the development of an infarct, gross morphology, microscopic changes, etc. Please do study it well. It is applicable in a lot of chapters and a lot of subjects. Gracias.